Welcome y'all to the first or second episode of the Blazing Black Bolshevik podcast. It is me, the one and only, the most beloved, Tracy Jones. Some know me as TJ, some know me as Lamont, some know me as brother, some know me as friend. I am just me. My intent here today is to educate the masses and just let people know what I'm about. I plan on educating people on communism, history, politics, sexuality, gender, spirituality. Name a topic, I'll talk about it. This platform is here to help stop misinformation and to better the lives of everybody who listen to it. You can classify it as do-it-yourself. You could classify it as self-help. You could classify it as whatever you want. My only intent when when you guys listen to this podcast is that you come out better than you came in. Whether you guys, find it useful, whether you guys come to grips with something within yourselves, whether you guys gain a new perspective about something, I believe fully within my heart that I personally, no matter who you are, not only will become a better person from it, but I myself, learning from the experience that you learned from, will also better myself. The student teaches the student teaches the teacher. The teacher teaches the student, and it's a growing relationship. And I wouldn't say I'm so haughty as to call myself a teacher, because I wouldn't consider myself Christian anymore. But the beliefs are still there. You're supposed to teach your fellow man. And I believe that my first topic of today will be religion, and how it intersects with all of the class divisions and the ills of society. Religion in and of itself is not necessarily evil. It's not inherently good or evil. Depending on which text you read from, depending from which, sources you gather, you can have a completely good religion. And then depending on another text you read, you may come from, get an entirely different interpretation, and you may end up causing harm. I believe as a Marxist-Leninist that religion has come to its final conclusion, that especially in the late stage version of capitalism that we have currently, that religion is so surely showing its fascistic side. I will catch a lot of flack for this opinion, because folks will read it as anti-religious, and I'm just anti-intolerance. Sorry. My point being is that religion, as of the last 2 millennia, has caused massive harms to our society. Technology, science, economies, war, devastation. Religion has outserved its purpose, its original purpose, which is to gather the masses and better them. When Islam originally spread, it united all the barbaric tribes under one. When Christianity originally arose, people, the family unit started condensing. people started getting more morals. That's not to say that these cultures were originally violent and needed to be condensed into one mega culture, but that's just what these religions naturally did. You also had Zoroastrianism. You had different pantheistic religions. You have monotheistic religions, all vying for supremacy in the world. But if most of your religions are Abrahamic as of today due to many folds of reason, and it's not to be anti-religious, but you cannot deny the atrocities that have occurred under religion. Whether you're talking about the Crusades, whether you're talking about currently recently in Nigeria, 50 up to 50 people, I know at least 21 confirmed deaths happened in the church, and they believe it is related to a Islamic group. You have plenty of religious extremists. You just had the Buffalo shooter. I'm in Buffalo currently, born and raised, and just visiting for right now. It is disconcerting, to say the least, when you have an 18-year-old kid. I am 23. When I was 18, I didn't like being called a kid. But you have to realize your brain doesn't mature until you're at least 25. So, have an 18-year-old kid write a 180-page manifesto claiming how he had to save the white race, how he didn't want to do it, how it was like in his blood that that we're overtaking the white race and that we are in a danger and a plague upon society. And I'm just paraphrasing here. I didn't read the shit. I don't want to, because I know how disgusting it is. I may read it just to gain insight into the madness that is white supremacy, but it's just, it's sickening. It's sickening, and I feel as if the more incidents like this are going to continue to happen. You will see more mass shooting incidents arise. You will see, but it is not accurate to say this is lone wolf shooters. It's not accurate to say it's a lone wolf shooter at all. You be like, but they're not part of a group. They're not part of the group, man. They're trying to, they want us to go to war. They want us to have a civil war. The government is planning it. They very well can be. However, when I say these are not lone wolf shooters, what I am saying is that this ideology is being pushed. It is being pushed by your conservatives. It is being pushed by your fascists. It's being pushed by your politicians. It's not just an isolated thing. When you have sitting senators declaring that the white race is being replaced by blacks, Jews, gays, you name it, they're being replaced by it. You know that you're in trouble. This sort of environment is ripe for revolution. During the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and even up into the 80s, the Black Power movement was one of the fiercest and strongest movements in the country, and it was systematically destroyed. It arose out of the conditions that black people have experienced and still experience to this day, seeking and demanding our freedom from this oppressive establishment, and to reconcile the economic and the social characteristics of America to better fit black people and really minorities everywhere. The FBI and CIA completely shattered that dream, and we have been recovering from that. Currently, as of right now, we're not in a situation in which we have an environment in which we can grow. We, like I said, is ripe for revolutionary potential. But once you reach that sort of radicalness, you're playing with fire. It's like, people always wonder, like, oh, why is this generation more radical than the ones before this? It's not that, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are more radical than, say, your boomers or your Gen Xers. The sad and painful reality for the majority of those leftists in previous generations is that the dream died. They were systematically killed. If you think that in U.S. puppet states, in Hispaniola, and all across Latin America, all across the world to be precise, you saw that they installed these fascist dictatorships, these religious dictatorships, these sexist and racist dictatorships, and that they killed socialists by the hundreds of thousands. What makes you think that the U.S. didn't do the same thing? I've read the reports of socialists being thrown into like vans without plates. People never hearing or seeing again from their friends. Friends going on mysterious vacations and disappearing. People, just suddenly coming down with the worst illness imaginable, being completely healthy. The government the government has tools in which they can kill people without, anybody knowing. No autopsy can find out the actual cause of death. This is all freely and publicly available information. There's a good YouTube channel called Second Thought. He made a video on the CIA. He got a warning. His video got taken down. He got a warning. They eventually put it back up. He made a big ruckus, and that was his turn to the left, to becoming a socialist, because he was just genuinely like a informing sort of guy before that, and then he turned all the way to the left. So your CIA, your intelligence agencies are very active. So active that they probably knew about the Buffalo shooting before it happened. Your government is full of racist and white supremacists. The Klan leaders there are several reform Klan leaders. One of the biggest, I think he leaded the KKK nationally, has stated that, back during the mid 1900s, later 1900s, that, they started getting lawsuits. They started getting, the KKK as an organization really started to decline. So what they did was send all their boys, the strongest, whoever could meet, whoever wanted to. They paid for their, entrance into the military. They paid for their entrance into police school. They pay for their entrance into all these mid-level jobs, positions of power, especially in which they can enforce and enact violence upon people of lower income communities, and people of different colored communities and economic backgrounds. You will not see speed bumps in upper affluent neighborhoods. You will not see speed tables. You will not see, the same amount of police oversight. You will not see cameras. You'll see cameras on the houses. You won't see cameras on the on their stores or on their on the streets, as so to catch them speeding. A doctor gets a speeding ticket. No. Anybody well respected, white or white passing or capitulated to whiteness, Southeast Asian / the Japanese. And I know that's you're like, oh, Tracy, that's racist. No, I will elaborate. I will give nuance. Anybody who capitulates to whiteness or assimilates into whiteness is given a free pass in society. Not necessarily so to say that that everything in life is a cake and a cookie to them. But if you notice the negative perception around blackness in all of these countries, they have skin whitening creams. They hold whiteness to a different standard. Everybody wants white skin. And they also bring that back here doubly. On TikTok, I seen an Asian man yelling at a black boy, he was in a college room, and he was yelling at him saying can you even speak English, because you know how black people speak AV, our own dialect of English. And he's saying how he could speak proper English. Asian people, and it's predominantly not to give other Asians the free pass, because every race does it, but more specifically Japanese and South Koreans, even the Vietnamese to some extent, not the ones who were originally from South Vietnam, who all came over during the 1970s, the end of the Vietnam War era. And they see that white people treat black people as second-class citizens, and instead of aligning with us, they tear us down as well, as so to benefit from white supremacy. During World War II, when Germany allied with Japan and Italy, those two races were pretty much lifted up. And I will only give Italy the benefit of the doubt of just being, torn, basically, even though I don't believe it too much, it's like Irish people and Italians were treated like, trash. But really, in reality, the Russians have more claim to that. Any Slavic group has more claim to that. Y'all even treat Poles like 15th class citizens, calling them toilet cleaners and all other types of debauched names. And the Poles still eat it up. I'm so sad to see what has become of Poland without communism. That being said, sorry, I will say that a lot. I know I go through points a lot, but that's just how my mind works. It's I have ADHD and autism, so my mind is always constantly bouncing back from topic to topic. But ultimately, I end up making my point some way or another, And I do read comments. I do accept criticism, constructive criticism, not, people just tearing me down. But I want to grow. At the end of the day, I want people to understand me, and I want to understand other people. My biggest point, my biggest, goal in interacting online is to develop a community in which, everybody is learning and everybody is helping one another and helping other people. I want to, rebuild a strong communist movement across the states, even pouring into other countries. I truly believe within my heart of hearts that we can save this world. I am not a doomer by any means, and I truly feel that we can have a revolution that shifts and changes the world. And even if we can't, then we can get a couple billionaires to go down. That I was saying to a friend, I exist purely out of spite. I exist purely out of spite. But that's a joke, really. I love my life. I truly do. Although I did not ask to be here. Don't let my mom hear that I enjoy this stuff, or my father for that matter, because they gave birth without my consent. And if I could go back in time, yeet. Nah. But yeah. I want to drop my hot take on Stalin in the first episode, but I feel as if y'all already know what I'm going to say. The majority of you. Unless you're a random seeing this. But all I can say is Stalin is good. He did make his mistakes, don't get me wrong, he definitely did, and I don't hold him up above like the head or treat him as some sort of god. He made good contributions to theory, helped synthesize Marxist-Leninism, and also led the communist movement in the wake of Lenin's death. He is a very elaborate figure, charismatic figure, and I feel as if though, I can't always describe him in a way that will fully encapsulate, my entire thoughts on him. Because I definitely feel like there were points where he could have did better in, with leading the Soviet Union. But I also feel that he does not get commended enough for his efforts during World War II and even previous in leading the revolution. People act like, he did nothing. I even had a Trotskyist, who is still my comrade, don't get me wrong. I had a Trotskyist tell me, Stalin didn't even do that much. He did little to nothing. And I was like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I understand, you could dislike Stalin for his slaughter of the anarchists. You could hate him for his expulsion and assassin plots against Trotsky. You could hate him for his mismanagement of the Soviet economy. You could dislike him, but disliking him based on CIA propaganda is just foolish. It's even Cat in the Guy hat. Yeah, Cat in the Hat. Dr. Seuss made I believe Dr. Seuss made an anti-war, anti-German, an anti-German propaganda piece, and it was just Garillion, Zillion, Billion, Fatillion, and somebody on a typewriter. That was literally the Nazi propaganda machine, and during the war, they tried to blame Russia, Soviet Russia, but the USSR for a genocide that two genocides that never even happened. They tried to blame Soviet Ukraine's famine on the Russians, stating that they had a bad itch in my arm. They tried to blame the Soviet Union for the genocide of the Ukrainians. And yes, there were deaths, mass deaths. Yes, there was a famine, a lot of it, in a region where famine typically occurs. But notice how they never talk about the famines hitting the other parts of the Soviet Union way harder. Notice they never talk about the food aid that Soviet Russia and other Soviet republics sent to Soviet Ukraine. Notice how they never talk about the bourgeoisie of Ukraine killing 1.5 million cattle. Note how they never talk about tons of grain being burned by the bourgeoisie and petite bourgeoisie. Note how they never talk about how the cow population never returned to the same until like the 1940s or 50s. I might have overshot that. I may have. But my point is, it didn't recover for years, like over a decade after it happened. And yet these petite bourgeoisie are seen as, as somebody to be pitied. People will talk about their grandparents, like, my grandfather did nothing wrong. He had his farm taken away from him. And it's like, did you mention that your grandfather owned like 10,000 acres? Did you mention that your grandfather had, the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars of wealth in a region where there's only villages? Like, say what you will about the Soviet Union, say what you will about Stalin, but Stalin only had like, what was it, 40,000 rubles worth of books? I don't know the exact number, but look at all of his possessions when he died. I believe he had like a hunting rifle, books. This man was not Gaudy, Gaudy. He was not pretentious. The other unions actually laughed at Stalin when he wore his simple coat, his suit of the party.